Let's bring the Republican Senator from Louisiana, John Kennedy, serves on the Judiciary Committee. And sir, good day to you. We got a lot to get through in the next 4 minutes, okay? Within the last hour, James Comey was on CBS. He was asked this question. Watch here.
The Attorney General says he believes spying occurred in looking after the president's then campaign. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I have no idea what he's talking about. The FBI doesn't spy. The FBI investigates. We investigated a very serious allegation that Americans might be hooked up with the Russian effort to attack our democracy. The Republicans need to breathe into a paper bag.
Okay. Not sure what you brought to work today. What do you think of that response there?
I think it's clear to most Americans that Mr. Comey is not and never was a law enforcement professional. He's just a hack politician. It doesn't give me any joy to say that. I think he's worried, and he should be, that Mr. Barr and the Inspector General are going to look further into the genesis of the investigation of the Trump campaign and the investigation of the Clinton campaign. And I think they're going to find that all roads lead to Mr. Comey.
Wow.
Why he did what he did, I don't know. But it is breathtaking to the extent that he has hurt the FBI, which is the premier law enforcement agency in all of human history, and which we need to work hard toward getting their reputation back, thanks to Mr. Comey's tarnishing of that agency.
I don't know if you saw the Wall Street Journal this morning. Here's their front page story, and the headline reads like this. Watchdog probes FBI reliance on dossier in surveillance of Trump aide. The investigation apparently underway wants to know why you relied on a dossier that was paid for by the DNC. Doesn't that go back to James Comey yet again?
I think all roads lead back to Mr. Comey. Mr. Comey he's not the only one up here in Washington, but he's part of the Washington insider political elite. They think they're smarter than the American people. They think they're more virtuous than the American people. They didn't think the American people in 2016 were smart enough to pick a president. So Mr. Comey and others tried to put their thumbs on the scale. And he's hurt a lot of people, and he's hurt a lot of important institutions to our system of government in the process. And I think Mr. Comey is lashing out now because he knows what's coming.
Mitch McConnell said the case is closed. He delivered a stinging speech on our program yesterday. Senator Schumer followed up by saying this on the floor of the Senate.
Our leader says, let's move on. It's sort of like Richard Nixon saying, let's move on, at the height of the investigation of his wrongdoing. Of course he wants to move on. He wants to cover up. He wants to silence on one of the most serious issues we face.
So then there you have the back and forth, and in an hour we see the hearing. What gives today in this contempt hearing with Bill Barr, do you think, Senator?
Well, the theory of Senator Schumer's case seems to be that somebody is covering up a crime that was never committed. This one's not hard to figure out. Many of my Democratic friends are not happy unless they're unhappy. They don't like the results of the Mueller investigation. They thought that Mr. Mueller was going to indict the president. The Mueller report comes down and it recommends no indictments of the president. The Mueller report is all of a sudden an impurity in their punch bowl, a hair on their biscuit. So they can't get mad at Mr. Mueller and criticize him because they have worshipped him for 2 years, so they've got to turn on Bill Barr. And what they're doing to Bill Barr is ludicrous. They've accused the man of everything.
Well, he seems to be a clear target right now.
Oh, he's clearly a target. And they're asking Barr to go to jail. They're telling him, release the grand jury information to us. They know he can't. It's a violation of federal law. They want him to do it, and probably if he did do it, then they'd say, okay, you violated federal law, you ought to be prosecuted. Well, this is all about deflecting from the results of the Mueller investigation.
That hearing starts in 45 minutes, and we're watching for headlines. Sir, thank you for your time as always. Senator Kennedy, thank you for coming back. Now there is a move by some senators to push for more information on the investigation. One of them is Republican Senator Ron Johnson, Wisconsin chairman of the Senate Homeland Security Committee. Sir, good morning to you. We're going to take our viewers back into this hearing. Not going to leave it for long, but what are you pushing for at the moment here, sir?
Good morning, Bill. Well, I'm working with Senator Grassley and also Senator Graham, and we want to, ask the questions that, quite honestly, Robert Mueller did not ask, did not investigate, and that's exactly what was the predicate for this entire investigation. And what we're doing is we are releasing certain texts, certain emails that will hopefully prod, for example, in this case, the Inspector General of the intelligence community to take a look into potential leaks out of the intelligence community. And so we released one text from Peter Strzok to Lisa Page on December 15th, and it reads, "Think our sisters have begun leaking like mad. Scorned and worried and political, they're kicking into overdrive." Pretty interesting text. What are they worried about? What have they been leaking, and what are they kicking into overdrive? And then later, in April of 2017, an email that Strzok sent to his FBI colleagues, quote, "I'm beginning to think the agency got info a lot earlier than we thought and hasn't shared it completely with us. Might explain all these weird, seemingly incorrect leads all the media folks have. Would also highlight agency as a source of some leaks." So, Bill, there's so many unanswered questions, so many things that this raises as a concern that I think the American people have the right to know what was happening inside the Obama administration.
Let's get a little context here. I've heard the first one you read already. The second one appears to be new. What was going on within the investigation of either the FBI or the CIA around that time that suggests that you're onto something, Senator?
Well, in the first text, news stories are starting to appear that there was some connection between Trump, his campaign, and Russia. That's the first time those news stories really appeared. So you might think that maybe the leaks has something to do with developing that story, that narrative. In the April emails, it refers specifically to a news story pointing to the fact that British intelligence were the first people that informed FBI about potential connection between Trump and Russia. So again, this is a narrative. This is a story that produced the Mueller special counsel investigation 18 months later, and we finally found out what Devin Nunes found out in the House Intelligence Committee over a year ago, that there was no collusion between Trump campaign and Russia.
So it is my understanding there's an investigation already underway into the very leaks that you're talking about, and that's what Michael Horowitz is doing right now. Are you contributing to what he's doing, or is this something separate from that, Senator?
No, this is something separate. So what Michael Horowitz is looking at is all the leaks that he found out during his Clinton email scandal investigation, all the leaks coming out of the FBI. What we're asking the intelligence community inspector general is to investigate leaks apparently coming from one of the agencies. Again, we don't know which one. We're just asking those questions. But again, I think we need to take a look at that very seriously as well when you take a look at this entire narrative, this entire story that was spun up, that resulted in 18, 19 months of investigation, and it had really done a great deal of harm to this administration's ability to govern.
Okay, now a leak, if proven, is criminal, is it not, Senator?
They can be, they may not be, particularly if they're actually approved by higher-ups, which is something else the American public would want to know. So again, we want to know the source of these leaks. We want to know exactly, are there illegal leaks, or were they actually approved by higher-ups, potentially in some of these agencies, which would also be a pretty serious matter.
Okay, we have been watching this House hearing. I know it's outside of your jurisdiction, but give our viewers a sense about where this is headed, because it appears the ending for the story today is pretty obvious. You move the contempt vote out of committee. You wait for it later to be voted on the full House. We've seen contempt votes in the House against Eric Holder and Lois Lerner, and they essentially go nowhere. So what is today about when the White House exerts executive privilege over the Mueller report? At the end of the day, where are we, sir? Is it a stalemate, or is it more than that?
No, it's all politics. It is a stalemate. And I think this is what we are all warning the American public. If you put Democrats in charge of the House, it's not going to be about good governance. It's not going to be about moving our economy forward. It's all going to be about investigations and eventually talk about impeachment. And that's exactly what's happening in the House Judiciary Committee today. It's interesting. You mentioned Eric Holder. It took 255 days for a Republican House to finally get so exasperated with his stall tactics, they voted him in contempt. This is taking Chairman Nadler 19 days, I think is what the count is. So, again, a highly politicized House, not involved at all, not interested in governing and improving our economy, improving the lot of the American public. It's all about politics, trying to win the 2020 election.
Sir, thank you for your time. We will see. We'll stay in touch with you in your office.